Македонски зборувам или английски или како сакам? So, we, the young people from Western Balkans, so let's start. It's the last and final session, I think, in this forum. Well, I want to say in the very beginning that I'm, during 30 years of my career, I'm working on new integration processes, and I did it with a lot of enthusiasm, which I lost lately. So I'm here, and I'm glad to be moderator of this session in order to see if there is any opportunities which will come from the young people from the Balkans, and to bring some energy back in order to maybe take back my enthusiasm about EU integrations. In the very beginning, I would like to give the floor to the State Secretary, Mr. Zoran Popov.
Bojan, thank you very much. At the very beginning, I would just add we have a list of very distinguished speakers and 2 hours only. So we should stick to 5 to 6 minutes each, the most.
3 minutes for each, if you ask me. So,
okay.
Do not.
A very good afternoon on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government. It's the last panel, but not the least important. And we are debating about Western Balkans next generation. I'll start with good news. The government has invested a lot of efforts to make youth voice being heard, to make the ground better, to feel them better to stay at home. We have adopted a law on youth policies. Second, we have introduced youth officers at national and regional level. Third, the Agency for Youth and Sports have invested like no one in the last 30 years since our independence in these 4 years. And I think our Minister of Culture will say more what the government is doing. Second, the spirit of Prespa agreement is alive among youth. Since its signature, exactly 4 years ago, 4,000 young people from North Macedonia and Greece have come together in different actions and areas of common interest. What I would like to see next year at the third Prespa Forum, we should have much more youth from the region. For example, the 3 communities from Bosnia and Herzegovina, the young ones, from Belgrade and Pristina, to sit and to discuss about the way forward, our fears, our wishes, your needs. However, I would say that Western Balkans next generation is at stake nowadays. What we will have in our countries, in our region, in the next decade will pretty much depend on how viable the European perspective of this region is. I have spent a week searching about Western Balkans youth. More or less, more than 50% of young people from the region are waiting to see what will happen, especially with North Macedonia and Albania, and whether they will have a real, genuine European perspective before they decide whether to stay or leave the country. More than 50% of young people aged between 18 and 34. We should take seriously this data into account. We all do know that 2022 is the European Year of the Youth, and we should make maximum use of it all together, more European support, more financial support, intensified efforts by our governments to implement youth policies and concerns. We have two key regional organizations. The first one is RICO, dealing with the youth, and the second one is Regional Cooperation Council. We can do a lot together at regional level, implementing common measures at the same time. We have the Berlin Process 2.0, and as the German Chancellor Scholz said nowadays, the youth will be one of our prime-time priorities. During the Western Balkans, EU Western Balkans Summit to take place on 23rd of June, three core issues will be discussed: security, the green agenda, and youth. And it is yet another opportunity to see how we can do it together, more and better. I'll stop here and I'll take my right to intervene later on throughout the discussion. Again, personally, as a ministry, we did not spare any effort to make youth better off nowadays. As a food for thought, maybe. If you Google it, young people in the Western Balkans, you'll find a lot of data. There are 4 or 5 issues which are of main common concern. First of all, youth representation into government policies. More than 50% say that they feel sort of sidelined. Second, good education. Third, fairer employment policies. Fourth, better entrepreneurship. Startups, support for businesses for young people. Borjan?
Thank you, Mr. Popov. And now I would like to give the floor to our special guest, Mr. Paul-Richard Gallagher, the Secretary of the Holy See for Relations with States. Mr. Gallagher, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be able to intervene in this session as well. The fact that you're having this session on youth, the fact that youth have been mentioned already several times in other sessions, is an indication of your concern and your preoccupation with the issues surrounding young people today here in the Western Balkans, and hopefully elsewhere as well, because these things are not exclusive to your region at all. In the Vatican, youth activities are often reason to smile a little bit, because in fact you're allowed to participate in youth activities until you have completed your 40th year. So you're 39 and you go on, and then in theory it stops. So some of our youth are not so youthful. This, I've noted, is really quite a youthful event. Lots of obviously very talented young people have been assisting the delegations and assisting the dialogue in general. One of the things I think that we should not underestimate it, and even in private conversations here today, people have been mentioning from their own family and experience the difficulties that are multiplying as a result of the years of the COVID pandemic, and now with these months of the war, that our young people are unquiet. They are full of questions about what this means, and obviously what it means for their future, and the people are looking for reassurance. At the same time, it's also been mentioned that in the region there is an unprecedented demographic crisis, which is obviously so fundamental. If we're talking about young people today, we'll also have to think about the young people of 20 years from now. What will be the situation? And some people maintain that this is a little bit of a ticking time bomb for the region. And even what the State Secretary was saying today in the context of European enlargement, that many people are reviewing their options, and some of the signs are not necessarily encouraging. And it's true that young people and young families represent the future for all of us. And this is true here, and it's true in other parts of Europe and of the world. So I was very encouraged by what was just being said about youth and family-friendly policies. And there are some indications in parts of Europe that where governments are taking those sort of serious policies seriously, that there is some return on the investment. I think also, if you'll allow me, I think that we have to exploit as well the religious and confessional dimension, because this is also an important part of the life of society in general, and hopefully of our young people. The Pope is frequently saying that he wants young people to be builders of bridges, and to be able to draw on the richness of their culture and their religious beliefs. He said when he visited Sarajevo in 2015, he said, "You are a Muslim, you are a Jew, you are Orthodox, you are Catholic, but we are us. This is how to make peace, and this distinguishes your generation, and it is your joy. You are called to great things, a great vocation. Build bridges, not walls, and this is the joy that I see in you." One of the things that I think we have to be able to do at this point in time is to confirm people, young people, in the validity of their dreams and their ambitions. People who do not have dreams and ambitions do not have motivation in their lives to move forward. And at this particular time, I think we could say that if you don't have dreams and ambitions, the danger is that you have nightmares in the realities that we have to face today. Another quotation from the Pope: "Let me tell you that one can never dream too much. One of the big problems people have today, including so many young people, is that they have lost their ability to dream. They don't dream either much or little. When someone does not dream, when a young person does not dream, that empty space gets filled with complaints and a sense of hopelessness or sadness." The Pope is also very keen on political engagement by young people. He's very enthusiastic when young people are willing to stick their heads out, put themselves on the line for their political beliefs, even if perhaps we in the church might not necessarily share completely all those beliefs, but this is a sign of hope for him. He said on another occasion, "Each of you is called to work with your hands, to take life seriously and make something beautiful of it. Let us not allow ourselves to be robbed of our dreams." And so I think I'll stop there, just encouraging young people here and young people beyond this Presbyter dialogue to have a dream, have a vision for your country, for your region, and try to realize this. And hopefully some of us who are around will try to help you and confirm you in that, because it's worth it. It's worth it for now, it's worth it for the future of your children, your grandchildren, and hopefully with perseverance, many of the dark things on our horizon can be fought against, and we can restore hope to this generation and to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. About dreams, I had a dreams when I was young, just to share with you, with all of you. My dream was about the United Prespa. And finally, I have a pleasure to share with all of you today that finally I'll see my dream realized, which means that tomorrow in the Prespa Lake on Markova Noga, it's on the border with Greece there, for the first time ever, the young people from the three countries, Albania, Macedonia and Greece, will gather for a huge party. We'll have 16 DJs and street food festival, which means, but the point is that after so many years of dreaming about United Prespa, something could happen and to become real. So, and I would like to praise publicly Madam Kostadinovska-Stojčevska for her support and the support of the Ministry of Culture for this event to help us to, to become reality. And of course, because of the, that's a kind of also realization or of the materialization of the spirit of the Prespa agreement. So, Madam Stojčevska, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will be talking in Macedonian, so please feel free to grab your translation kits. Your Excellency Archbishop Gallagher, почитувани соговорници, почитувани екселенции и млади луѓе.
Excellencies, young people, it is a huge honor and pleasure for me to be in your presence and address you at the second Prespa Forum Dialogue on the session on the next generations in the Western Balkans. You can notice that I addressed you young people as excellencies. I don't know who everyone who sits here, maybe the future president, prime minister, or future world-renowned scientists, or our pride is sitting here as well, a name that institutions, future institutions will bear, and I certainly hope that this will be the case. I will not be addressing you as only as a Minister of Culture or a university professor or someone with a title, but as a young woman, co-combatant and an actor. When I entered politics, I was very young, and I was convinced that in 2021 or 2022 I would be a citizen of a country which will be a member state of the European Union. Time really passes really quickly, and those that are a bit older maybe will laugh at the fact that in 1990 was not 10 years ago, but 30 years ago, and there are 20, and it's been 20 years since Red Hot Chili Peppers album Blood, Sugar, Sex and Money came out. In the Western Balkans, films are being produced for a long time, and today I see that as gaining in time in order to reach a happy end of a film. Youth is the most beautiful part of life, which passes really quickly and is very important for our entire lives, but youth passes by a bit slower, but we need to learn from our youth years very quickly. And in my 40 years, when I still feel that energy of speed, and people tell me that I'm still young, but I sometimes wonder what's wrong with our youth sometimes. Is youth an advantage? Many young people have been discriminated precisely because of that advantage that they call of them being young. A fun fact: would we discard Tesla as a reasonable young man playing with a danger? Would we not be able to have Blaža Konarski as the first president of the Society of Writers of Macedonia, and with his only 25 years of age? Simply, to put it simply, youth opens a path where there is no such path. And I will not continue and list all our artists, painters, writers, and try to make you guess when they've written their best works. So this is why all young people enjoy all my support, dear young people. It is not only that it was such a long time ago, but we know how it was when we were in your years. Some things we are indebted to leave to you, and some we need to correct first prior to leaving them to them. hand them over to them. 2022 has been pronounced as the European Year of Youth in order to build stable, peaceful and sustainable societies and developing policies meeting specific needs of young people. Be open for cooperation and exchange of experiences. Let them make wrinkles in your faces, and they are the ones that you will remember most. Smile when you're not certain. Smile when you're not prepared for an older person to share their experience with you. Because in our blood we have enough iron to build crowns or chains. It is up to you. There's no better plan for the future if you want to respect everyone else as befits you. Try to find ways and how, with your clear hearts, make the Western Balkans closer to the European Union. I'm convinced that today young people would resolve all our disagreements, and not because they understand them, but because they are suffocating them. This is why it is necessary for young people to have their vision in order to envision the joint European future. Be creators of new connections in the region. Show the world and future generations that the great Goran Stefanovsky was right when he said that the Western Balkans was not only a Western Balkans, but the center of Via Ignatia, one of the staple points of today's Europe. So young people are better innovators than judges. They are better in creating and starting new projects than continuing to work on the usual ones. Because, as Winston Churchill said of young people, don't be satisfied with such situations as they are. Don't accept any answer, and don't let successes and awards surprise you until you are combative enough. Nothing will stop you. Discuss, debate until you're completely worn out. No one in this world can make anything alone. No country in the world can make it alone. Young people should not be good soldiers or obedient workers or cheap labor force, because it is in young people that power comes from, because without young people there's no future, there's no Western Balkans, nor a realistic European security architecture. To conclude, I would like to share a short story that my literature professor shared with me, and I hope it will cause the same emotions as it caused in me as a young student and the Faculty of Philology. A professor wrote a poem about Ika. After she read it, she noticed that all the students smiled aside from one when they heard that Ika fell into the dust. When she asked why they are laughing, they said that they were laughing at his courage. And then she asked the one student that didn't smile, and he said that even though he fell in the dust and was melted as wax, we all know how dangerous it is to come closer to the sun.
Thank you very much, Madam Stoichevska. And now let's see what are the ideas of the young people, what are their suggestions, how to find out the way of the dangerous, vicious circles in which we are right now, in the reality which is not so bright. And what are the ideas how to bring the Europe at home and not to leave our homes and go to Europe, especially you, the young people. So our first speaker for this panel today is Mr. Georgi Tasev, the youth advisor at the office of the Prime Minister. Mr. Tasev, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Borjan. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear young people. Young people are creating change everywhere we look. So some of them dedicated everything they have to tackle the most pressing issues of our time, and they sacrifice their work, even their way of life. So they are change makers, they're activists, they're social innovators, They are disruptors, they are dreamers, people who believe social and environmental change is possible. My peers and myself, including the young decision makers from the Western Balkan countries, want to solve problems, progress together and create a better life, break down barriers and build bridges of friendship and trust, a future that will guarantee us security and economic stability. We also want the region to be our home, to feel free, calm, independent and prosperous. We can't run away from one of our biggest issues right now, the EU integration process and the long-term keeping of North Macedonia and Albania in front of the European doors. This situation slowly but surely creates hopelessness, which in my opinion is not so much caused by the bad economic situation, but by the inability of young people to see their real European perspectives and values and be part of the European family. The formula for success and how to motivate and keep the young people in the process, in the story of the European Union, is to offer them knowledge and skills to come to conclusion that they can achieve a certain change. Without a European perspective, higher wages and better quality of life, young people will continue to immigrate and we will only discuss on panel discussion and nothing else. Young people must have the first chance to succeed at home, to realize their potential at home. Therefore, joining the European Union will definitely give a new perspective to the young people and will help reduce the wave of immigration. Western Balkan needs its young people, just as young people needs prosperous and safe Western Balkan. Young people will contribute actively to Europe's democratic values and its economic prosperity. Young people have a responsibility to make this contribution, but in order to do so, Western Balkan countries have a responsibility to establish the condition, opportunities, and experiences for young people to rise. Although this notion is something of cliché, but young people need to be considered as a force for good and not as a problem to be solved. My main message from this panel is that we, especially the young decision makers from the Western Balkans, to transform ourselves and especially, as I mentioned, the decision makers and the other young people from the Western Balkan, and to commit ourselves to be opportunity focused rather than problem oriented focused. And with that approach we can extend and ensure young people access to the social rights and entitlements that secure their full participation in society and supports the fulfillment of their individual potential and capacity to contribute to positive social change. Thank you.
Mr. Tasev. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Al-Berhani, the Secretary General of FREICO, one of the institutions with the main mission to help young people in the region to find a way out of the pessimism and to find a way how to settle them in their own homes. So, Mr. Al-Berhani, please tell us a bit more about your action, your mission, and your projects.
Thank you very much, Borjan, for this opportunity really to be part of this panel, represent RICO, what RICO does, and how it defends also not just the interests of the youth, but how it also fights for youth to become better actors in the society, positioned in such a way that they have a decision-making power. I mean, you can see even now in the room, it happened even in the previous panel, what happens when we talk about youth. I don't want to discourage you. In a contrary, I just want to tell you that it's not wrong to be the last session in a very important, prestigious event such as this one. And maybe the least filled in with people. It is very important for you all, especially for the youth, to know that just being part of such an event, it is a great opportunity, because it's the only way, if you are in, you can do changes. remember that RICO was formed with the desire of youth to change the region, to enter into the agenda of the Berlin process. They succeeded. They do it right now in Prespa. Maybe we are the last topic in the agenda, but I'm sure that this will create a new path for new thinking of not just the organizers, but all the people that are around this event. And yes, RICO was created as an initiative of youth, and this also gives hope. It was created with help of friends, and I will use one quote of Liverpool. I know that Archbishop is from Liverpool. You never walk alone. Yes, you never walk alone, but if you have your friends that you open your doors and put you in the agenda of such events, or put you in the topics where you can actually bring forward your position, that's of great importance. So we need friends like that. We need friends like all of us here that are sitting and hearing the needs, concerns, and desires and dreams of youth. So RICO did that, reflected all those needs, concerns, desires, dreams of youth, just because youth was active in this Berlin process at the time when, Borjan, you also mentioned pessimism was existing. They brought optimism, and nowadays they are counted as the biggest result in all this process. Nowadays we are talking about European Year of Youth, which shows what a big focus of Europe is, how much focus of Europe is giving into youth. And it's not just Europe. The Summit of Leaders was mentioned. It is one of the 3 core topics that will be discussed in Brussels. There are many events now, especially the European Union is considering all their agenda to mainstream also youth in all the policies. So this can be done only if you are in. This is why I don't want you to be discouraged by what you see at the moment. It's your chance, grab it. We were created to produce results. It is a great burden in our shoulder. It's not easy to operate in a constellation, political, I would say, constellation and context, which is very fragile, which is prone to failure each time the politicians fail to come to some concrete agreement. This is why we are welcoming all the agreements, such as the Prespa one, that is actually giving hope to youth that things can possibly go forward. This is a great hope. It's the same was with Ohrid Framework Agreement and with all the peace accords around the region. RICO is creating results and will continue to create results. We are, at the moment, we have supported in 4 open calls over 110 projects, provided opportunity for connecting over 30,000 youth in the region of Western Balkans by just giving them opportunities to exchange, to learn from each other, to actually open also the doors for politicians to cooperate better. Because once they see them cooperate, and once they see these people here coming from all across the region having fun and discussing about their dreams, their future, it's easier for politicians to bring harder decisions. We are also working on a social entrepreneurship. We provided opportunities for youth entrepreneurs. We provided opportunities for volunteering across, we are still providing, of course, opportunities for volunteering across the region, and many other activities that are bringing the spirit of peace and reconciliation in the region. And yes, as I said, it's not easy. It's not easy to work in these conditions. Of course, money is needed. It was mentioned in some of the points from the other panelists. But in the end of the day, I mean, when we talk about youth, they are not requesting a lot. It's not connected to money. Nothing is connected to money. It is about sustainable future. It is about them being part of the problems, designing, first of all, identifying and designing solutions for the future, solutions that in the end of the day, they will take care of. If we don't put them to be part of the solutions today, we will miss a chance of doing great mistakes that they will not like it, or it will not fit to their dreams or to their life or to their style or to whatsoever. And when we are talking about the problems in the region, They're almost all the same, and our studies show that. But their desire for prosperity, for European perspective, is reflected in all the researches. Their desire to be part of all these types of intercultural events, even in our study, Shared Futures, it's shown that over 92% of youth are really willing to be part of such kind of events where they can talk and discuss important issues of their future and work on peace building and reconciliation, because they see it as an obstacle. I don't want really to talk a lot. I really skipped my formal speech because I see it as a matter of heart. I'm not anymore young, but I have a duty now in my position to really advocate for youth to be having a better position in the society, and position which doesn't mean just participation in events. It means decision making, something that RICO also does with its own co-management system, where, for example, young people or youth representatives, together with the ministers of youth education and sports in the region, are deciding about the policies or policies that are related to youth. This is something that we want to promote, not just in events, not just in government institutions, but also at the private sector. We need to reflect upon their dreams, concerns and desires. This is our duty as RICO. We will continue doing so, and we are happy to be counted for now as the main success of the Berlin process. We will continue producing results in the future, and we promise that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert, for your speech. And now I would like to give the floor to Irena Shumenikovska, young European ambassador.
Thank you for the opportunity to address this panel discussion as a young European ambassador. A famous writer, Jose Rizal, one noticed that young people are the hope for our future. If we do not allow young people to form their opinion based on the opportunity to get acquainted with new places and people from different cultures in the region, we will leave them with dangers worldwide. They will continue with the hatred, which was frequently the domain policy of the states in the 90s of the last century. In this short presentation, I will share my experience on a working visit to Brussels on the occasion of Europe Day. As a delegate from the Western Balkans, I had the opportunity to meet and make contacts with young people from different regions. The European Year for Youth emphasized the importance of European youth in building a better future, greener, more inclusive and digital one. This work visit enabled me to gain an extraordinary experience and at the same time to enrich my knowledge in the areas of my interest. An additional imperative of this visit were the large number of meetings with the prominent leaders and holders of leadership positions in European Union institutions. On this occasion, I had the opportunity to discuss with people who are in a leading position in youth policy and work on the need for active involvement of young people in a policy-making process. This type of meeting offers the opportunity to meet young people with whom they share the same values, opportunity for new collaborations, networking, as well as exchanging of views and the current challenges and problems that young people face every day. The acquired knowledge and contacts are another opportunity for advancing youth policies. One of the main topics of the discussion at this conference was youth unemployment. At the end of my speech, I would like to refer to the current situation in North Macedonia. Youth unemployment is a long-term and burning problem in my country. The situation with youth unemployment also causes migration movements, that is, young emigration or brain drain. Youth emigration negatively affects the investments and economic development of my country, while youth unemployment, in addition to negatively affecting the perception of young people, also mean higher social costs and loss of the investments that have been invested in education for training of these young people. Finally, I would like to emphasize that the selection of appropriate staff for a job where education and expertise are placed at the top of the agenda are the only key to the prosperity of our society and entire Western Balkan in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Irena. And now we have opportunity to see how the situation is in Serbia. We understand that we have in North Macedonia here we have a problem with the youth unemployment, with the brain drain. What's the situation in Serbia? And I know it's not much better for sure, but maybe we can exchange some of the experience in regards to the problems of youth.
Yes, thank you very much. And first and foremost, to all of you who are over 30 and still are present at the panel discussion, I commend you very much. I know we're not, as young people, we're not the most recognizable political figures in the region, not yet, but we're really happy to have the opportunity to speak about our experience, but also I strongly believe that we cannot speak about the future of Western Balkans without involving young people. Usually we say there's no point in time when we were left without young people, so we could talk about young people being the future of the Balkans, of the Europe, but what we are future or next generation of decision makers, political leaders, leaders of civil society. So it is of utmost importance that we are included in the panel discussions, in forums of high political level as this one. To your question, really, it is not much better, and I think that is something that really connects us, young people of the Western Balkans. And one thing that is also really significant for me is that you asked the question, how do we bring EU home? So we are the ones who bring EU home. Our governments benefit largely from the investments. They benefit in infrastructure, in building the institutions, stronger democratic institutions, but we are the first generation of Western Balkan citizens that had the opportunity to experience what European identity means. We are the first generation of the Western Balkan citizens that had the opportunity to participate in trainings with our counterparts from Europe, from the Western Balkans, to go study abroad, to travel freely within the EU borders. So also we as youth structures, because I believe all of us actually represent young youth structures in the region. We are the ones who try, even without the top-down pressure, to harmonize our laws, our strategies, our action plans, so we are the ones who actually implement these things at home. We are the ones who advocate for starting youth guarantee, including the practice of youth guarantee. As example, in North Macedonia, in Serbia, we started implementing EU youth dialogue as well, and we are the first one to actually have established outside of the EU, have established the coordinational body for the EU dialogue. So we are the ones who are actually striving, even when there is no political will from our leaders. Also, what we are also striving, and I think that is different for our generation, that even when there is no dialogue, when there is no understanding between our political leaders, we are the ones, as young people, as youth structures, we are the ones who communicate with each other, we cooperate, because youth in the Western Balkans, in our respective economies, shares the challenges. So we are the ones, we have the shared mandates, our work is directed in similar ways, so this is something that we really need to do. We need to cooperate with each other. We need to do a lot better for the youth. Also, what we need to do is really be included, again, in the high-level political events, because we have lots of things to say. Even taking, for example, Serbia, even there is a large body, sadly, of young people that are Eurosceptic. But even when they talk about future, the things they want to see is greater employment, better housing, their greater involvement in decision making, and where they perceive it, even though, again, even if they're Eurosceptic, they see these things being possible and feasible in the EU. So that is what they, even when they're Eurosceptic, this is what they're trying to do. This is the standard for them. And what we are against trying to do as youth structure is to harmonize these things, to bring these things home, to bring you home, to be a part, because we are part of the European family, though it often gets forgotten. Even for youth, we often get excluded even from youth structures on the EU level. But we are here, we are now, we are ready for dialogue, we are ready, we're well skilled, we're well developed, even though we don't have 15 years of experience, but we want to stay in the region, we want to make it better, and we want to be part of the European family. So I think, again, it is impossible to talk about the future of the Western Balkans, of Europe as eternity without young people, because we are the next generation, and hopefully we will do a bit better than our current leaders.
Better
Thank you.
for sure. Thank you very much. That's what I needed in the very beginning when I said that I'm waiting from the young people some enthusiasm and positive energy. So I have no doubt that you will do it. So our next speaker, Clyde Priska, she will tell us a bit more about the situation in Albania.
Yes, thank you, Brian. First of all, I'd like to express that I'm honored to be part of this distinguished panel, and that it was a pleasure to listen to the informative and insightful previous panels that we had today. I would like to say that I, from the National Youth Congress side, which is the sister organization to what Anya is representing from Serbia, have been working as well for almost a decade now to tackle and to address youth issues in Albania, and they are multiple and numerous, and that we've tried our best throughout the years to make sure that we work together with governments and institutions and with civil society actors and universities, businesses and private enterprises to push forward policy suggestions to the institutions to make sure that these issues are addressed, and that we put our best forward, that we put our best solutions forward to ensure a better future for ourselves and for all of the young generation in Albania and in the Western Balkans. For this, we've worked not only in Albania, but also with international partners in European Union, but also with sister organizations in the Western Balkans, such as COMS and the National Youth Council of North Macedonia, of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Serbia as well. And we've also worked, as I said, with institutions, and one of this cooperation peaked with our common application as National Youth Congress with the municipality of Tirana for the title of European Youth Capital that we were awarded in the year 2019 for the year 2022, and we are right now implementing a huge program of more than 1,000 activities, and it's 7 to 8 million euros of investments for young people. It's funds that are given directly to youth organizations, non-formal groups and individuals to invest in community and to implement their own ideas to make sure that they put their best ideas forward in 8 different programs. One of them is Youth Makes Creative Economy and Innovation, for what I'm responsible. The other is Youth Creates Culture, Youth Are Europeans, Youth Eco Health, Youth Spaces, Youth Develops Capacities, and so on. So young people can invest in different programs that help them for creating a better future for themselves, but also for community, to create startups and to create initiatives that develop the labor market and the educational system as well. Not to say all of the resume of what we've been doing, I would like to quote a small portion of a speech Robert Kennedy gave in 1966 in University of Cape Town, if you'd allow me. I'll say it sums up the reality that where we are living right now, but also where we want to go forward. There is discrimination in this world, and slavery and slaughter and starvation. Governments repress their people. Millions are trapped in poverty, while some nations grow rich and wealth is lavished on armaments everywhere. These are different evils, but they are common works of men. They reflect the imperfection of human justice, the inadequacy of human compassion, or lack of sensibility towards the suffering of our fellows. But we can perhaps remember, if only for a time, that those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek as we do nothing but the chance to live out their lives in purpose and happiness, winning what satisfaction and fulfillment they can. Surely this bond of common faith, this bond of common goal, can begin to teach us something. Surely we can learn, at least, to look at those around us as fellow men. And surely we can begin to work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become in our own hearts brothers and countrymen once again. The answer is to rely on youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. The cruelties and obstacles of the swiftly changing planet will not yield to the obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. They cannot be moved by those who cling to a present that is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement and danger that can come with even the most peaceful progress. It is a revolutionary world we live in, and this generation, at home and around the world, has had to thrust upon it a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived. Some believe that there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ill. Yet many of the world's greatest movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from the Macedonia to the borders of the earth. A young woman reclaimed the territory of France. And it was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and a 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson who claimed that all men are created equal. This man and woman moved the world, and so can we all. Few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lots of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, these ripples build a current that can sweep down the Midas walls of oppression and resistance. Few are willing to brave the disapproval of their fellows, the censor of their colleagues, the wrath of their society. Moral courage is rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence. Yet it is the one essential vital quality for those who seek to change a world that yields most painfully to change. And I believe that in this generation, those with the courage to enter the moral conflict will find themselves with compassions in every corner of the globe. Some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? I believe that we should dream things that never were and say, why can we not do them together? We should work together to create things that never were in this region and create a reality together to move forward and to have a future that was never perceived in the past and that can help us to be part of this Western European family and of family of values that we all seek forward to be from. Thank you.
And now I have a pleasure to give the floor to Meris Becovic, the member of the Secretariat Youth Council of the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the country with maybe the worst of the stories in Western Balkans, having in mind the European perspective. So how you handle your reality?
So firstly, thank you for having us here. It's very dark. So it's dark, and I'll try to give the perspective of a youth council in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And it might not be so inspiring like the speeches before, but I will give my best to make it real. So the basis of our work is youth participation. And we often hear it, it's being used, it's a term that's used, and the other side of it is youth tokenism. So we have people using that word just for the sense of using it because it's important. And then you are there fighting for it. You want to have young people included, and then they include them, but they don't include them the right way. And that's also like one side of the story that's happening on all levels, and it's happening everywhere. And when you're working in that field, it becomes really frustrating. So, and that's only one part. So you have other sides of the job that are really frustrating when you go to some meeting and you get the meeting after maybe 6 months or 1 year, and then nothing happens. So sometimes the youth councils, not sometimes, they always have huge problems, but that's also, in some sense, there lies inspiration. I mean, when you see someone succeed, and in the same sector as you, it gives you hope. So, for example, when we mentioned Komps or Anja, when I first entered the regional sphere, let's say, when you go to an event and you see her fighting so wholeheartedly for something, and you can't not be inspired. So you can't go home and not be inspired to do something in your country. So, and I think that's a huge value of events like this, because all of us here are people who believe in something and they want to change something. And in some sense, we all get sometimes frustrated, our batteries go down and so on, but we form a community and we give each other hope and strength. And that's how I see it, and that's how I perceive all the people here. The youth councils have a special role because youth policies isn't something that's really interesting. Not that many people want to do that. So, and it's a group of strange people. So basically, like a few weeks ago, you have 5 of us sitting on one desk. We are watching a law being voted on, and it passes. And then you have 5 young people celebrating because that law was passed on, because it wasn't there like in the last 10 years. And then you realize it's like not the common picture. So you have 10 young people celebrating some law. I mean, it isn't something usual. So I'm really happy personally to be part of this. And through the last years, while I'm part of this, I've seen a lot of huge things. And I want this to be, in some sense, something inspiring for my colleagues, because I see a lot of my colleagues getting low on energy, they don't want to fight anymore and so on. And I just think that we need to look at each other. So there's a long way ahead of us. We heard about all the problems, and there are a lot of them, but we are all here working on it. So we really value our partnerships, the other youth councils, our other partners like RAICO, RCC, everyone. So we are a huge network, and I would like to have that part here, that positive note. So because nobody was really talking about it, and I think it's something very important. And on the other side, I also want to use the chance to talk about youth participation, just a little, 1 minute more, so, and I will end then. Youth participation for us isn't something that's meant to be there on its own. We look through youth participation on other problems. We use youth participation to look on youth unemployment, on mental health, on all the other topics. And that's why youth participation itself is so important. And if you have those mechanisms in place, then you can have not ministries who understand young people, but ministries or governments who have young people involved, and they can put their voices directly there on the table. And that's the difference. And if it's like that, then you have like some good examples, for example, like the youth guarantee and everything. I mean, this is also a good example here that we are in this place. Like North Macedonia was the first country that implemented a mechanism in 2018, I believe, for the youth guarantee. So there are good practices out there, good examples. We just need to follow through it and work maybe a few years more. But yeah, that's our perspective. And I would like to thank all of you for being here, for staying to the last sessions. And I hope that we will work together in the future. And on the next conference that we will have some more successes to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meris. And our last speaker on this panel is Mr. Jasmin Valjevac, Project Manager, Western Balkans School Exchange.
Being the last speaker on one of the last panels, I will really try to keep my message short. Yes, I am representing here German Development Corporation, GIZ, as a project manager, but I'm really working so closely with my colleagues from RAICO that I think I can also speak on their behalf. one of the topics or one of the guiding questions when I was reading about this panel was how to bring youth closer to the EU, how to bring EU closer to youth from the region. But we from GIZ and RICO have took it to one step further and said, okay, we really maybe first need to bring the youth of the region even closer together among themselves, because our data really shows that there is a huge amount of young people who have not even traveled outside of their own country to the neighboring countries. And we are now seeing this in the program. We are implementing really a huge amount of young people that from Bosnia and Herzegovina that have never visited Montenegro, Serbia, not to mention Albania or even Kosovo for where they need visas. And this is really why we created, with the support of the European Union and German government, and I would like to use this opportunity also because I see that His Excellency EU Ambassador is in the audience, really to thank the European Union for all the support that it is providing both to youth and also to the Regional Youth Cooperation Office. We have taken this support and created something which we have called Super Schools, a regional program where we are really offering to young people from the region, in this case high school students, to take part and participate in youth exchanges in the region. And I'm happy to say that in the last 9 months, we have managed to support 60 schools from the region to take part, more than 1,000 students, more than 100 teachers who are taking part in these exchanges, where basically you have between 10 and 20 students from one country going for 5, 6, 10 days to another school, another country, having activities with their peers. And when I say activities, of course, in addition to all the fun and sports, we are really talking about workshops, the topics such as dealing with the past, reconciliation, and then having those same students come to return the visit and visit them in their own countries. And really with this program, which I say again, Super Schools, because we really want, and we are very ambitious, we want this brand name, which is being implemented by RICO in 5 or 10 years to have the same meaning like when you say Erasmus, so that everyone knows what it means. Through this program, we are really also supporting the youth in many other activities, such as the youth summer camps, such as the teacher trainings, and really we want to make this something long-term and sustainable when it comes to the youth exchanges in the region. And I would like to finish also in the manner of my colleague Clyde with a quote, although not from somebody so famous, but more from a teacher from Montenegro, I believe, who took part in one of the exchanges, and this was a message, a Viber message, which was sent to one of our local program officers. I will try to do a rough translation from the local language, and it says, "Hi, we are still within the overwhelming impressions from our exchange, but I have to share with you how much this exchange has positively impacted our students. You know that we made sure that we also take the students which are not only the best and with the best grades, but which are also those that are somehow inert and not interested. The students from Macedonia have really woken them up. I looked yesterday in classes, they are different children. They are much more engaged and much more participating. And not to tell you that I'm now being pulled over in the school corridors by other students and asking me when this exchange will happen again." So thank you very much, and I will conclude here.
Thank you. Yasmin, here is the end of the first part of this panel dedicated to the youth. And I got what I needed from the very beginning, some shot of the good energy and enthusiasm. Thank you very much to everybody to be part of this panel. Now it's time for a break, and then I will be replaced by Mr. Spiros Papadopoulos, Advisor Council of Youth at Council of Europe from Greece. Thank you very much.